I'm pleased to have on the line with us Farron Cousins, co-host of Ring of Fire Radio, executive editor with the Trial Lawyers magazine, website ringoffireradio.com. And Farron, welcome.
Thank you, Tom.
Hey, it's great to see you. So you have been digging into the life of Ted Cruz and the master plan to win the White House, and crazy like a fox, and I saw him this morning on MSNBC, actually, which is very rapidly becoming the all Republicans all the time network, giving a speech to an American Jewish Republican group, basically where he was saying, terrorism, 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 and everybody's going, yay. So tell us about Ted Cruz.
Well, I think what's interesting about Ted Cruz is that nobody really thought that he would get this far in the campaign, a lot like Donald Trump, but he is surging in ways that Donald Trump could only dream about. What we're seeing right now is Ted Cruz kind of picking up the scraps from Donald Trump. But in reality, Cruz has been surging this whole time since he announced his candidacy. And it's because, unlike everyone else, Cruz understands how to run a successful campaign. And what I mean by that is the fact that Cruz has had a ground game in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, all over the South. He's working in all U.S. territories offshore. He has more cash on hand than any other Republican candidate. And so when we hear Cruz come out with some of these just kind of nutty statements, we have to understand that his nuttiness is not stupidity by any means. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how to play a crowd. That terrorism chant that you're talking about, that absolutely works with the Republican base. Right. And Cruz is using this to his advantage, and he is going to continue to climb in the polls.
What kind of president would be President Cruz?
A terrifying one, to be honest. I mean, we're looking at a guy who really pulls in some of the worst of the Republican Party. And what I mean by that is he has the religious extremist fringe that supports him. He has the same kind of racist base that Donald Trump has. He also has the corporate side, and that's a side that's not getting enough attention in Cruz's campaign. He is getting a lot of money from corporations. They're fully supporting everything that he's doing in the Senate and in the House. Because I think another thing a lot of people don't realize is how powerful Ted Cruz is in Washington. He meets every month with the House Freedom Caucus, which is the caucus pretty much responsible for ousting John Boehner. Ted Cruz orchestrated that.
Right.
So Ted Cruz is running the Senate, basically. He's got a lot of pull over the House. And so he's getting a lot of this corporate money because they understand not just the power that he could have as president, but the power that he already does have in Washington. So a Cruz presidency is going to be possibly one of the worst Republican presidencies because we're going to see this anti-union, anti-immigrant, anti-minority, anti-women, pro-corporation policies that we've seen from others, but it's going to be on steroids at this point.
Yeah. I remember 3-4 years ago on this program, when Ted Cruz was, before there was discussion of him as a serious presidential contender, but he was like breaking on the political scene, doing his filibusters and whatnot, finding all these old videos of his father and a number of other evangelical Christians gathering around him, laying their hands on him, anointing him as essentially John the Baptist, as the forerunner of Jesus, as the person who would be the leader of one of the leaders of the world at the time that the beast and the whore, the phrases from the book of Revelation, the beast and the whore would return and shake up the earth, and there would be a world war, and only 144,000 Jews would remain alive in Israel, and they'd all convert to Christianity, and then Jesus returns, right? And I mean, that stuff is out there. It seems to play well to the fundamentalist Christian audience. Do you think that the larger American public knows about this kind of stuff?
Well, obviously they don't know about it, but I don't know that once they do, it's going to really hurt him that much. I mean, George W. Bush wasn't extreme to that extent, but, what we saw with Sun Myung Moon, in the Capitol building many years ago, these guys embrace this kind of extremism, and when it gets pointed out, it doesn't really become an issue because there are so many other things that the Republican Party uses to distract us. I mean, misdirection all over the place. And that's what Cruz is going to do. He is a master at that. I mean, look at what happened with the Planned Parenthood shootings just last week. He comes out and says, look, this was a transgendered liberal leftist activist. He immediately deflected the attention from the extreme religious right back onto the progressives.
But
obviously it's not true.
Yeah, he said that
Cruz
because
is a master of misdirection.
Right, he said that because the shooter in the Planned Parenthood case, when he applied for a driver's license and registered to vote, or maybe one or the other or both, in Colorado a year ago, a clerk mistakenly listed him as female, and perhaps because his last name is Deer, and maybe I don't know why, it's just a typo, and because his first name is Richard, but so Ted Cruz took a clerk's typographic error, which this guy has been spending a year trying to fix. By the way, he's been trying to get it set, and turns him into something completely different. I mean, why was Cruz not ridiculed for that? Why do these things not end the careers of these Republican politicians? Cruz saying that, all the things that Trump has said.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that just Republican base doesn't necessarily care. And the American public as a whole stopped caring about things like this a long time ago because they're always moving on to the next thing. And that's what the corporate media has kind of taught us to do. Things pop up and, wow, this guy said something really crazy, but look at this other shiny thing over here.
Right.
Look at this distraction. Look what else is going on. Look what Kim Kardashian did today. Oh my gosh. And so the public's attention span for things like this has really dwindled down. And I mean, we've had studies that we've talked about on Ring of Fire many years in the past. The public's attention span for any kind of news story really stretches about 18 to 34 seconds. So if you have anything that takes longer than 18 to 34 seconds to explain, to get out, the public as a whole tends to tune it out a little bit.
Thus bumper sticker politics.
Yeah, exactly. And so when Ted Cruz comes out with these crazy statements, we see it in headlines, but we also have a corporate-controlled media that knows that that's not going to sell airtime. I mean, MSNBC, of all places, is putting this guy on the air and allowing him to explain himself. We don't need him to explain himself. He's not going to admit that he made a mistake. He's not going to apologize. We need to go out there and do what the Republicans do, which is attack, attack, attack.
Yeah. Remarkable. So, Farron, we just have a few seconds left, but what's the main message we need to tell people about who Ted Cruz is?
I think it's that Ted Cruz is a very dangerous, a very powerful Republican extremist who could very easily seal this nomination at the end of the primary process.
So the fascist we need to worry about is not Donald Trump.
Well, we need to worry about both of them because right now, neither one of those people are attacking one another. They're attacking everybody else in their field. They're attacking everybody on the Democratic side. But there is this kind of unholy, unspoken alliance right now between Trump and Cruz.
Yeah, it is. And you just froze up, Farron. And oddly enough, yeah. And on top of that, Donald Trump is. I mean, you might end up with Trump is in his. I think he's 68 or something like that. He's in his 60s. You could end up with a Trump Cruz ticket, and then Cruz becomes, president the next time.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.